All right. Why your government is either a thief or you are a public officer for income tax purposes. As an example of why, an understanding of this subject is extremely important. Consider the following dialogue at an IRS audit, in which the first question out of the mouth of the agent is always, "What is your social security number?" IRS agent, "What is your social security number?" You, 20 CFR 422103D says SSNs belong to the government. The only way it could be my number is if I am appearing here today as a Fed employee or officer on official business. If that is the case, no, I am here as a private human being and not a gov statutory employee in possession or use of public property, such as a number. Therefore, I don't have a social security number. Furthermore, I am not lawfully eligible and never have been eligible to participate in Social Security, and any records you have on to the contrary are false and fraudulent and you should be destroyed. The IRS agent, that's ridiculous. Everyone has an SSN. You, well then, everyone is a stupid whore for acting as a Fed employee or agent without compensation. They and not you determine the charge for my service to act as a Fed employee or officer or trustee in possession of public property such as a SSN is all the tax and penalty liability that might result, plus 1,000 per hour. Will you agree in writing, pay the compensation and demand to act essentially as your Fed coworker? Because if you don't, then it's not my number. I edit as agent. It's your number, not the gov's. You, well, why do the regulations at 20 CFR 422-103D say it belongs to the Social Security Administration SSA instead of me? I am not appearing as a Social Security employee at this meeting, and it's unreasonable and prejudicial for you to assume that I am. I am also not appearing here as a Fed personnel, as defined in 5 U.S. Code 5528A13. I don't even qualify for Social Security. I never have. And what you are asking me to do by providing an invalid and knowingly false number is to violate the law and commit fraud by providing that which I am not legally entitled to and thereby fraudulently procure the benefits of a Fed franchise. Is that your intention? I edit as agent. Don't play word games with me. It's your number. You. Well, good. Then if it's my number and my property, then I have exclusive control and use over it. That is what the word property implies. That means I and not you may penalize people for abusing my property. The penalty for wrongful use or possession of my property is all the tax penalty liability that might result from using said number for tax collection plus 1,000 per hour for educating you about your lawful duties because you obviously don't know what they are. If it's my property, then your job is to protect me from abuse of my property. If you can penalize me for misusing your procedures and forms, which are your property, then I am equally entitled to penalize you for misusing my property. Are you willing to sign an agreement in writing to pay for the abuse of what you call my property? Because if you aren't, you are depriving me of exclusive use and control over my property and depriving me of my equal right to prevent abuses of my property. The IRS agent. Okay, well, it's our number. Sorry for deceiving you. Can you give us our number that we assigned to you? You didn't assign it to me as a private person, which is what I am appearing here today as. You can't lawfully issue public property such as the SSN to a private person. That's criminal embezzlement. The only way it could have been assigned to me is if I am acting as a public officer or Fed employee at this moment, and I am not. I am here as a private person and not a public employee. Therefore, it couldn't have been lawfully issued to me. Keep this up, and I'm going to file a criminal complaint with the U.S. Attorney for embezzlement in violation of 18 U.S. Code 641 and impersonating a public officer in violation of 18 U.S. Code 912. I'm not here as a public officer, and you are asking me to act like one without compensation and without legal authority. Where is the compensation that I demand to act as a fiduciary duty and trustee over your stinking number, which is public property? I remind you that the very purpose why governments are created is to protect and maintain the separation between public property and private property in order to preserve my inalienable constitutional rights that you took an oath to support and defend. Why do you continue to insist on commingling and confusing them in order to steal my labor, property, and money without compensation in violation of the Fifth Amendment Takings Clause? Usually, after the above interchange, the IRS agent will realize he is digging a deep hole for himself and will abruptly end that sort of inquiry, and many times will also end his collection efforts. What is property? Property is legally defined as follows. Property, that which is peculiar or purpose to proper to any person, that which belongs exclusively to one for the strict legal sense, an aggregate of rights which are guaranteed and protected by the gov. The term is set to external to every species available right and interest, more specifically ownership, the unrestricted and exclusive right to a thing, the right to dispose of a thing in every legal way, to possess it, to use it, and to exclude everyone else from interfering with it. That dominion or indefinite right of use or disposition which one may lawfully exercise over particular things or subjects. The exclusive right of possessing, enjoying, and disposing of a thing, the higher right a man can have to anything, being used to refer to that right which one has lands or tenements, goods or chattel, which no way depends on another man's courtesy. The word is also commonly used to denote everything which is the subject of ownership, corporeal or incorporeal, tangible or intangible, visible or invisible, real or personal, everything that has an exchangeable value or which goes to make up wealth or estate. It extends to every species available right and interest and includes real and personal property, easements, franchises, and incorporeal headments, and includes every invasion of one's property rights by actionable wrong. Property embraces everything which is or may be the subject of ownership, whether a legal ownership or whether beneficial or private ownership. Term includes not only ownership and possession, but also the right of use and enjoyment for lawful purposes. Property within constitutional protection denotes groups of rights inhering in citizen in relation to a physical thing as right to possess, use, and dispose of it. Goodwill is property, as is an insurance policy and rights incident thereto, including a right to the proceeds. Commercial code property means anything of value, including real estate, tangible and intangible personal property, contract rights, choices in action and other interests in or claims to wealth, admission or transportation tickets, captured or domestic animal food and drink, electric or other power. See also property of another. Infra does under definition and instruments. Second, trust. It denotes interest in things and not the things themselves. Keep in mind the following critical facts about property are legally defined. The essence of the property right, also called ownership, is the right to exclude others from using or benefiting from the use of the property. We have repeatedly held that as to property reserved by its owner for private use, the right to exclude other is one of the most essential sticks to the bundle of rights that are commonly characterized as property. In this case, we hold that the rights to exclude so universally held to be a fundamental element of the property rights, falls within this category of interest that the government cannot take without compensation. 2. It's not your property if you can't exclude everyone, including the government, from using, benefiting from the use, or taxing the specific property. 3. All constitutional rights and statutory privileges are property. 4. Anything that conveys a right or privilege is property. 5. Contracts convey rights or privileges and are therefore property. 6. All franchises are contracts between the grantor and the grantee and therefore property. Okay. Public versus private property ownership. Next, would you like to compare the two types of property, public versus private? There are two types of ownership of property, absolute and qualified. The following definition describes and compares these two types of ownership. Ownership, collection of rights to use and enjoy property, including right to transmit it to others. Trustees of Phillips Eastern Academy versus Exeter. The complete dominion, title, or propriety right in a thing or claim. The entirety of the powers of use and disposal allowed by law. The right of one or more persons to possess and use a thing to the exclusion of others. The right by which a thing belongs to someone, in particular to the exclusion of all other persons. The exclusive right of possession, enjoyment, and disposal, involving as an essential attribute the right to control, handle, and dispose. Ownership of property is either absolute or qualified. The ownership of property is absolute when a single person has the absolute dominion over it and may use it or dispose of it according to his pleasure, subject only to general laws. The ownership is qualified when it is shared with one or more persons, when the time of enjoyment is deferred or limited, or when the use is restricted. There may be ownership of all the inanimate things which are capable of appropriation, or of the manual delivery of all domestic animals, of all obligations of such products of labor or skill as the composition of the author, the goodwill of a business, trademarks of science, and of rights created or granted by statute. In connection with burglary, ownership means any possession which is rightful as against the burglar. See also equitable ownership, exclusive ownership, hold, intimate ownership, interest, internal ownership, owner, possession, and title. We will provide later how participation in franchises causes private property to transmute into public property. Characteristics, public and private. Authority for ownership comes from public grantor, creator of franchise. Private, natural law. Type of ownership, public qualified, private absolute. Law protecting ownership, public statutory franchises, private Bill of Rights, first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution. Owner is public, the public as legal owner, and the human being as equitable owner. Private, a single person as legal owner. 5. Ownership is a public privilege franchise, private right. Courts protecting ownership, public franchise court, Article 4 of the USA Constitution. Private constitutional court. 7. Subject to taxation, public, yes. Private, no, you have the right. Exclude government from using or benefiting from it. Title held by public, statutory citizens. Statutory citizens are public officers. Private, constitutional citizen. Constitutional citizens are human beings and may not be public officers. Character of your human title, public, equitable, private, legal. Conversion to opposite type of property. By public, removing government identifying number, donation. Private, associating with government identifying number. Donation, eminent domain with compensation. Theft, Internal Revenue Service. Private and public property must at all times remain completely separate from each other. If in fact rights are unalienable, as declared in the Declaration of Independence, then you aren't allowed legally to consent to donate them to any government. Hence, they must remain private. You can't delegate that authority to anyone else either, because can't delegate what you don't have. The power which is deprived cannot be greater than that from which it is derived. One cannot transfer to another a right which he has not. For a fascinating and powerful presentation showing why private and public are separate, how to keep them that way, and how government illegally tried to convert private to public in order to steal from you, see separation between public and private.